Now that all our tests are passing, we want to publish our changes before submitting the project to us. To do that, we're going to make use of Git. Git is a version control system which is really powerful and is something that you must know if you want to be a good developer. It's a requirement for every developer out there. Every software project will end up using a version control system, and Git is a pretty popular one. We could say that 80% of the projects out there are using Git. When we clone this project, we did it from GitHub, right here. GitHub is a service and a website that works on top of Git, providing functionalities and utilities for us to browse the code and work with it. So what we're going to do now is analyze what changes we have made, save them, which is not the correct word, but along those lines, and publish it to our GitHub repository. To use Git, we will just use the git command. The git command has multiple subcommands. One of them is git status. Git status is going to give you a summary of the changes in your project. In this case, you can see that we have changed 2 files from the project that we clone, and those files are main and exceptions. Of course, that makes sense because that's what we had to do to complete the project. I can see what particular changes I have made in each file with the diff git subcommand. So I'm going to do git diff, and I'm going to try to see which file I want to see the diff. In this case, it's going to be calculator main.py. You will be dropped in this interactive view where you can scan what is going on in your project, and we can see the lines that we have added and the lines we have removed. So what you can see here is that the line that says def calculate XY operation was left untouched, and that's okay because that was the interface of our project. We were expecting that line to remain the same for the entire project. But I removed the line pass and I included my own code underneath. Once I have reviewed the changes that I have made and they make sense, I'm going to run git status again and I will be able to publish my changes. Before you submit, please make sure to check what files you have changed. Cloud9 sometimes adds some utility files they use internally and that we don't want to see in our public repository. So now we are ready. We know what changes we have made and we know that those changes are correct. We want to publish them to our GitHub repository. What we're going to do is git add to add to this index, and I'm going to pass the option dot. This means add all the files that were changed. If I do a git status again, you can see that the files that before appear like red, now they are green, and that means that I have added them to the index. I agree with the changes and I want to keep those changes. The next step is to commit those changes. Commit is a sort of freeze the status of my project at one particular moment. A commit is a really important unit of information in Git. It's kind of the angular stone where everything is built with Git. To commit, I'm going to use the, of course, commit subcommand of Git. I'm going to pass the -m option, and I'm going to pass now a human readable message it will let me read the status of my project in the future. Every project out there, when it takes several months to build, you will be able to go back in time and read what changed at what particular commit. In this case, I'm just going to add a simple message to indicate that I have completed the project and the tests are passing. Now I can just hit return and my commit is going to be created. You have here a summary of the commit. What happened? There was 1 deletion, 22 insertions, and 2 files changed. Now I am ready to publish these local changes created in Cloud9 in my repository in GitHub. To do that, I am going to use the push subcommand of Git. The push subcommand of Git will just get the commits that I have in my local copy, in this case in the workspace on Cloud9, and publish them or pushing them to the original repository that I have created, in this case my fork right here. So if I execute this command, I will see a set of changes, and if I go to my GitHub fork, I will see how my repo was updated. Remember the command that I ran before? It's right here. I can see the changes that I have just made. Remember that diff that we saw in the console? Well, it will look much better in the GitHub view, but still it's the same diff that we were seeing before. When you start working on large projects, we recommend you to work on atomic commits. While you're building some big functionality, divide it in small pieces and publish all the small pieces while they are working. So if you ever make a mistake, you can always roll back to a previous state. Now that we have all our changes in our GitHub fork, in the next section, we're going to show you how to submit the pull request, which is going to be the way we use to turn the assignments in.